It's going to pick up your microphone. So let's see if you can hear this in the stream. It'll take a few seconds for it to get through. Tom will tell me if he can hear it. Still not hearing anything. You're good? Okay, so that's your microphone from the computer. Okay, so now we get to get started. Let me get all set up on the slides. Let me do this real fast. Let me do this real fast. And let me go find all the stuff that I just changed. Okay. This has been fun so far. Hello everybody, welcome. Real quick show of hands, who's been here before? I always do this every time. Who's never been here before? We got newbies, I love it. Awesome. So, tonight we are here to discuss immersive technology and games and gaming. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Matt Wren. I'm the founder of VR AR Chicago and the Next Evolution event series. My passions and expertise span a whole lot of emerging technologies, and that is all I'm going to say.
I need slides.
You need slides. What do you mean?
I don't have slides routing through to the OBS.
You don't have slides routing through to the OBS. Sorry guys, give us a moment. How do you not have the output from here?
Do I need to just have slides open?
That's one way to do it. So just hit play. You're not going to get video this way though. No, so hang on a second. Just give me a second. Where is OBS? Why can I not get to OBS right now? Sorry, folks. Lovely technical. So, a little bit of clarity of what's been going on today. Our normal streaming computer decided to die. And so we're replacing it with a brand new streaming computer. It's wonderful. That said, this should be picking up the routing from here. So I'm not sure why you're not seeing this. Custom, I guess. Evolution. Let's add a new device. So we'll just take that one out, add a new one. Video capture device. Okay. Hey, look at that, you got it. Transition, you got slides. Alright.
Who are you? Who are you?
Who am I? I'm Matt Wren. Sorry, going back to myself again. This is fun. Love technical difficulties. So once again, my name is Matt Wren, founder of VR AR Chicago and the Next Evolution event series. I've talked about what I do, which is a lot of emerging technology stuff, and that's enough of me talking about myself. The Next Evolution event series and AWE Nite Chicago is now, always has been, and always will be 100% free to attend. That said, it is not free to produce. So, we put this lovely QR code up here for anybody who wants to make a donation to support the event. I'll leave it up for about 2-3 more seconds in case anyone wants to scan right now. It'll also be up at the end of the event, so don't feel like you're rushed. But we put it up here also so that it's on those of you who watch this event on the live stream or the recording of this event afterwards if you want to support us, and frankly the amazing content that we provide here, because we do get together a whole lot of experts for this event. I've lost my place. There we go. So, next thing I do want to talk about for those who have asked, we are excited to announce that we have locked in the Chicago XR Summit. This is, I'll say, it's gotten a lot bigger than we initially expected when we started planning this event. We're expecting to host anywhere between 500 and 600 people. We have about 20 companies and 12 to 13 community partners that are going to be exhibiting at this event. This is, at this point, assuming we hit the expectations, this will be the 4th largest XR event in the country. It will be the largest XR event in the Midwest. And it's like, the other thing I'll say which is very unique about it, it is the only XR event of this size that is free to attend. So please come and join us. We are going to be demonstrating. There's going to be no stage presentation at this event. It is hands-on demonstrations only. For those of you who are in the room who are going to be demonstrating at this event, raise your hand. Awesome. Thank you. Several of you are here. With that said, we are also AWE. Hey, Sonia, I know this is an audible, and I'm going to give you a second here. Do you want to introduce AWE, or do you just want me to do it?
I'm happy to do it if you want. I was going to talk a little bit about the gaming hub, but happy to say it now real quick.
Okay, I'll tell you what, I'll go through my normal slides, and then you can just talk about the gaming hub and AWE during your talk. Sorry, we have somebody from Augmented World Expo who's actually speaking tonight, so I figured didn't warn her that I was going to do that, so I'll just go through it. Anyway, AWE, this is AWE Nite Chicago. There are 30 AWE Nites all over the world. Scan this QR code for anybody who wants to get a discounted pass to AWE in Long Beach, taking place on June 10th through 12th, I'm guessing. I'll have that on a later slide in a second here. But this QR code, and again, if you don't get the QR code right now, I'm happy to give you the code later, but it's a discount for anybody who wants a 3-day pass to AWE USA, taking place in June in Long Beach. There are 3 major AWE events that take place around the world. Again, Long Beach in June, United XR Europe, which is December 8th through 10th, and then AWE Asia taking place February 2nd through 4th in Singapore. Sorry, I keep losing my place here. With that said, so AWE, for those of you who are not familiar with Augmented World Expo, AWE, there's a lot of resources for anybody who's going to be working in the XR industry. I would just encourage you to check them out, awexr.com. With that said, we also want to thank our annual sponsor for this year, UL Solutions. Without them, we would not be able to run this event, because again, as I mentioned, it's not free to produce. We also want to thank our venue sponsors. For a lot of years, we were at 1871. For those of you familiar with what's going on in Chicago, obviously 1871 gave up their long-term home at the Merchandise Mart at the end of this past month. We will see where they're going to settle in the next couple of months, but in the meantime, they have, frankly, for about 5 years, provided us with a physical location, in addition to 2112. Hey, Scott, do you want to come up here and introduce 2112? He also didn't know I was going to do that. But that's okay. Since Scott is here, and 2112 is the place that we're all sitting in, I'm going to let him go.
Well, thanks for coming. Scott Fetters, Director of 2112. We're celebrating our 10-year anniversary now, supporting tech and innovation for media, entertainment, creative industries. The room we're in now is a small piece of a much larger facility. I'll be around all night if anybody wants to learn more. For everybody in the virtual environment, we have a lot of great events coming up as well. Everything can be found at 2112inc.com. Thanks.
Okay, thank you, Scott. And with that, I am going to hand it over to our virtual host, Caroline Dennis.
Hey there, Matt. Hey there, everybody in Chicago. Really happy to be here tonight. My name is Caroline Dennis, and I'm with 2 degrees, and in my practice, I work at the intersection of immersive technology and Web3. I'm involved in a lot of different communities and companies. In addition to VRAR Chicago, I'm involved with XR Women and an organization that's out of the IHEEE organization, and it's a working group called Symphony, where we are building a global incubator for inclusive, sustainable, smart cities. I'd also like, part of XR Women has been around since 2020. We are a global community of about 1,200 members from 60 countries, and we're really dedicated to innovation, leadership, and collaboration. And since its founding, there have been we've had over 200 women take the stage, sharing their insights and expertise, and we meet every Wednesday on a number of different platforms, so if anybody's interested, please message me or send me an invite on LinkedIn. And just a little note about where we are. So we are in a platform called framevr.io, and it's a virtual environment. And what is so interesting and fun about this is you can access this from anywhere using your mobile device or computer or your headset. And so I encourage everybody to check it out. It's free to join, and it's called flamevr.io, and it allows us to do these cool things that we're doing right now. So back to you, Matt.
Thank you, Caroline. We also do have a lot of great community partners that support these events. So 2 Degrees IO is one, as Caroline just mentioned, the Independent Game Developers Association of Chicago, Envision, and Patched Reality. We also obviously want to thank our beverage sponsors who have provided the lovely beverages y'all are drinking here in the physical space this evening. And that would be Revolution Brewing and System Seltzers. But with all of that, I will mention too, if you're grabbing the System Seltzers, please pay attention to the can. It has different amounts of alcohol depending on which can you grab, so between 0%, 5%, and 8%. With that said, let's get to our actual topic for the day, because we're here to talk about immersive technology in games. So immersive technology is frankly reshaping gaming by turning players into actual active participants within virtual and augmented worlds. Unlike traditional video games, these experiences often involve full body movement, making gameplay feel more physical and engaging. From rhythm-based game challenges to sports simulations, players are no longer just pressing buttons. They're using natural motion to interact. The physical involvement isn't just fun, it's a major reason people are drawn into immersive games. So the cost of headsets and the limited number of high-quality titles remain hurdles. However, the growing popularity of location-based experiences like VR arcades and interactive game spaces show that there's a strong appetite for social, shared play that goes beyond the typical home setup. What makes immersive gaming equally compelling is how it blends realism, creativity, and human connection. Some experiences use augmented reality to build shared, walkable story worlds, while others recreate sports and activities with motion-based gameplay that mirrors real-life movement. These games are not only entertaining, they're inclusive, welcoming players of all skill levels and physical abilities. The immersive gaming community continues to grow through grassroots events, online play, and emerging esports scenes, creating spaces that are both competitive and supportive. As the technology becomes more user-friendly and affordable, immersive games are set to reach wider audiences and redefine what it means to play in the digital age. And we are here to talk about all those different types of experiences. The first person I'm going to welcome to talk about that is Christine Schwartz. Christine Schwartz is the CEO and co-founder of Virtual Roundballers. With a background in startups and entrepreneurial companies across finance, ops, and marketing functions, she's also passionate both personally and professionally about sports and fitness, having won ESPN's Musclemania's natural bodybuilding competition.
Yeah, and that's kind of like why I'm building virtual reality movement-based sports games. Because as a kid, I didn't make a sports team. I just was not good enough. And then it was years later when I competed and won ESPN's Musclemania competition. And I see that millions of kids don't make teams now, and with organized sports, a lot of them are left out of any type of sport. And so that's why, and like Matt mentioned earlier, it is inclusive with VR and immersive technology. And so we've developed an MVP in basketball that's movement-based, and again, using no buttons at all, just holding the hand controllers, so it's natural gameplay, designed to play in the paint of a basketball game, where you're defending against a trash-talking avatar. So if you want to go to the next slide. So that's a little, that's our avatar that we have right now, but it's all movement-based. You don't press a single button. We've got really great physics in the game, and that's another key component of any sports VR game. Because if you read some of the one-star reviews, if they're complaining about the physics, you don't get that realism that you can achieve using virtual reality. And it's inclusive. And we've developed an algorithm where we take your measurements in a virtual locker room, and that programs the adaptive AI of the avatar you compete against. So it works like a golf handicap. So it's great for really young kids to play competitively, as well as old as 91, we've had someone play our game. And then I'm also going to sign male and female college players, as well as NBA legends like Chris Mullen, who's one of our advisors, and some WNBA legends to be avatars in the game that you can compete against. And and eventually develop one-on-one, two-on-two games. So if you want to play the trailer. And here's a little trailer. We have a custom rap song that goes along with it.
Wait a second.
That's all right. But you can go to the website if you want to listen to the song. It's pretty cool. And here's the virtual locker room that you begin in. And we designed it so we can do brand partnerships later on and feature merchandise in there. And that's the court. And we did a test market with the Cleveland Cavaliers at their G League home games, and we won G League Partnership Activation of the Year award. And the Cavs had us do their playoff games. And they were a great partner to work with. And we did surveys with all the fans, and they really liked it. And then I contacted D1 top college player to do our mocap for us. Oh, that's okay. So yeah, we're starting in, and that was at the basketball court in the sky here in downtown Chicago. We did an activation there as well. And it's got the adaptive difficulties. If you start to get better in the game, the avatar is going to pick it up. And and that's us up for charge. And we had some pro players play it. Draymond Green played it. He tried to chase down the avatar. A few other NBA players that went to Michigan State. That's how we got our entry point into NBA players. So, and then Chris Mullen and his buddies played too, Mitch Richmond and Tim Hardaway. So, all right, that's good. All right, and then the last slide. Next slide. Okay. So anyway, with the future of gaming, I really believe VR and the immersive technology, even with mixed reality, is really a great space for the future of gaming, because for decades it's been flat screen with controllers. And even a lot of the games, even in VR, they just ported over flat screen games and made them arcade-like, still controller-based. But I think there's such a great opportunity to take advantage of the unique aspects of immersive tech, like full motion, the tracking's getting better. There's so much more creativity, and with AI getting better, with the generative AI, we can put that into a coach in our game or other NPCs that we would feature. So I think there's a lot of creativity, and other people can get into the space and dream up your own experience or game. So thank you.
You don't get to go away yet. No, you don't get to go away yet.
Oh, okay.
So now we get to ask you some questions before you get to go away. And the first one I'll ask really quickly is... Okay?
Yeah.
Okay. So you created a basketball game that's built around essentially real motion.
Right.
And so what would you say is the advantage of using natural movement instead of button press for gameplay?
Because it really simulates the real game and gives people an opportunity to play ball and play basketball, real basketball, instead of trying to figure out, there's a lot of VR basketball games right now, but they're all controller based, so you have to figure out the exact combination of buttons to push to shoot the ball or pass the ball, where ours is all natural based.
Okay, so following up on that then, how do you balance, I'll say, realism and fun when you're simulating a sport like basketball?
Because of the adaptive AI, we're not going to, it makes it competitive for all ages and skill levels.
Awesome. One more question for you real quick. So, there's a lot of talk about VR being isolating. Your game seems to be a little bit more kind of social and active, and it seems like everyone's doing it in front of an audience, I'll guess with. So, I'll guess, what role does sort of shared play have in getting more people interested in this, in immersive technology?
Yeah, with shared play, right now it's just one against an avatar, but we are going to do multiplayer to get, so you can play against a friend or someone else, or And so it becomes much more social that way.
Are you finding that the people who are kind of like watching each other play are getting competitive with each other, just on scoreboard and stuff like that?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, even at the Cavs, they gave us tickets to their hockey team for tickets for the high score of the night. And we had kids coming back and back trying to compete just for the high score of the night. And even this 12-year-old girl that was dead set on beating all the boys. And she was like super shy, but her mom said she's never played that competitively before in her life. So it's really the embodiment of VR that also lets you lose like all your surroundings and just be that person.
Excellent. Well, thank you. We'll have you back up for the audience Q&A afterwards. Thank you, Christine.
Thank you.
Give them a round of applause. And with that, I'm going to hand it over to Caroline to introduce Jeff.
Yes, Jeff, if you'd like to come up to the stage here, turn on the camera so everybody can see your shining face. And I will introduce you. There we go. Welcome, Jeff. So I'm going to pronounce your last name, and I think it is Jeff Baladinsky?
It's Basladinsky. It's
Thank
Polish.
Basladinsky. Jeff Basladinsky is the owner and CEO operator of Baz LLC, a company that is both a handcraft wood company that specializes in unique handcrafted, custom-made, exotic wood chopsticks and puzzles, as well as manages a workforce for employees of production, event management, logistics, and travels to events across the United States, and operate as the mobile retail location with partnerships with a wide variety of fields, including anime, comic, gaming, and virtual reality VR Villa. So that's so much. We were talking a little bit about this before we got started. And yeah, I would love to, I guess, well actually, let me give you the chance to do your presentation first. Excuse me, I was jumping right into the questions without letting you do your thing.
No worries. Well, the first thing I want to show is just, this is my workshop. This is literally now. I'm currently just prepping up our system, so I have a fleet of about 100 120 VR headsets, mostly our Quest systems. We're prepping for a show this weekend, and then our major show is in 2 weeks at DreamHack Dallas, MomoCon, and Animation, and DreamCon Houston. So we've got quite a bit of shows coming up that we're prepping for. So yes, I'm Jeff Basladinsky. I am considered to many the chopstick master. So I run an actual literal working shop where we handcraft a lot of our products. We go to events, mostly public events like Comic-Cons, anime festivals, Japanese festivals, all across the U.S. So we did 47 conventions throughout the U.S. from Hawaii to New York to Miami, Chicago, everywhere. And then from there, I've been passionate. I've been a VR gamer since Virtual Vive and Rift in 2016. So when I bought my first headset, I was hooked. Just loved it. I brought my friends over, we played with it. And then when I started doing conventions professionally for my own company, I started bringing out just for fun, 1 headset, 2 headsets, and the next thing you know, 100 headsets. And then being able to communicate and collaborate with a lot of different VR companies from around the world. So what you see on the screen to my right is a little bit about VR Villa. So the tagline is "It takes a village" because it has collaborated with over 60 VR companies. I have worked with about 90 different basically events from around the world, including Anime New York City, Otakon, DreamHack, and so forth. So I've worked with all these events intimately to make sure that we can be able to present our VR community at any show that we go to, so we can maximize and really present a good job holistically to the public, and really have a good time. That's what we're really here for. If you want to go to the next slide. So this, the way how we do it is we're all hands-on. There's no level of automation that we do when a consumer or the public comes to our shows. Everything is from the first point of order is that we are a VR guide in person to any single person that comes to our game room. We want to act as a friend to a friend, a gamer to a gamer. So when they have questions, they literally can talk to us and say, hey, I don't know what this VR is about. Well, let me tell you, what kind of games you like to play, your mobile, your console, what have you done? So we are really the first guides to any of the public to play a game or interact with the VR VR emerging tech. Even if it's something brand new with Pico 4s or even PC VR hardware, which we don't really bring up too much, it's a little more of a pain these days compared to standalone VR systems. But the content is what is important, like the premium content from a lot of developers like Resolution Games or Shell. So we just kind of curate the list of the games that we can enable or activate within our VR gameplay spaces, and kind of help them along with game content they like to do. They do have a waiver form, so that allows us to recover legally and liability-wise, but also allows us to ask simple questions for surveys to kind of understand a little better about who we are giving these headsets to go play, have fun. And ever since we've been doing this since 2018, I've asked the same question: is have you tried VR in your life? It doesn't matter if you tried Google Cardboard or anything newer, a modern VR system or interactive experience, even if it's at a VR arcade or at home. Ever since 2018, that number has been between about 22 to 36%. It's averaged about 30%. And interesting enough, with the scalability that we have, where we're doing 30, 40 shows in a year, we're providing service to 19, 20,000 people in that same year, that number hasn't changed. What we're seeing is that we're providing the service to a much larger, broader VR curious individuals who do not know where to go to find this tech. They don't know who to ask. There's no real free trials at different venues. And if you want to go to a VR arcade, you would have to pay like $60, $70 to have a limited experience, and very hyper-focused, good experiences, by the way. I love all the VR arcade applications out there, but doesn't really represent the broader scale that all of us know what the VR industry really has. And there's so much out there, and we want to be able to provide that to everybody, saying there's such a huge virtual world with all these great companies and all these great experiences. And, now we work with 62 studios, so 62 VR studios from around the world. Most of them are based in Europe or Southeast Asia, so not just homegrown, like it's Resolution Games, Shell Games, Mighty Coconut, everybody. And big guys to small mom and pops who, everybody loves this, and it's a great passion. We want to be excited about the game we present. We play all the games, all of my staff and myself included. So every single game that we put out has been completely vetted by us, the fans, so we can present it to new fans, and hopefully they realize how amazing this tech is, and they can hopefully be inspired to go buy their own headset and go play, or go out and learn and search more, or providing the avenues of saying, hey, here's what you can do, or even on the tech side of the world, where we have a lot of students from different collegiate avenues, especially with AWE, that students will come out and help us out at shows. And we kind of provide them, hey, this person is looking and emerging to do their own app or ways to do it. So we kind of help guide not just students, but industry and then the public altogether. So that's what we call it Beerville. It's all as a conglomerate, as a way just to have fun. I basically operate it like a nonprofit, even though it's technically is a division underneath my work group company. But we get away with a lot, and we do a lot, and we have a lot of fun, and hopefully everybody is able to really come out and see our shows in person. Because as we all know, VR is an immersive tech experience. You have to experience it. You can't just tell people, oh, how wonderful it is. It's everything about putting a head in a headset and having a good time. Really seeing that aha moment, hundreds of people, first time, having their eyes wide open. And the unique thing about with us is we're first come, first serve model, and we don't hold back the limitation. So when I do a show like Level Up Expo in Vegas about a week ago, where we brought 50, 60 headsets and I had 6,000 square feet of floor space on the floor where people come play everything from maybe a sit-down title like Puzzle Places or Silent Slayer to more active games like Space Pirate Trainer or Fruit Ninja. Good old titles that I still love to play, enjoy every day. To more of the more emerging tech with mixed reality, augmented reality, like Spatial Ops or Last Stand. So all this great stuff. People in the public do not know, they don't understand, they don't know where to go and find this information. So when they come to us, they were like, oh wow, this is really interesting. I was like, yes, then now go try it. You can experience this yourself, and once you find this game you like, go try another one. So, and people do come back. So we have a lot of people come back, they'll play and play and play. And sometimes people will come back and play for 12 hours in our game room in that day. And that's what we would like to see. So, one, we spatial ops. We did our first walkabout mini golf tournament on a large scale at Vegas. We had dozens and dozens of players that come and compete from around the world to come to play, and hopefully we'll do the same thing with our DreamHack activation in 2 weeks. And then really just getting out developers and seeing and meeting and really having a great time. That's what this community is all about. But if you'd like to have a little more information, you guys can go to vrvilla.org. That's our community. We do events all across the U.S. We haven't done international yet, so hopefully we'll be able to get to that point. But you guys just can come out and have a good time. So thank you for
Thank you, Jeff, and what strikes me so much too is that this really is a great middle pathway for bringing together the creators and the gamers and the prospective gamers, because I feel like so much of the VR hesitation often is the trying. So do you envision that the pop-ups and the events are going to be a permanent fixture in part of the VR culture and future as you look forward? Because it just seems like that is the thing, and we always say in XR, you know, all you need to do is put a headset on, but getting people to put that headset on is like, it's a long mile, right? So I love that you provide this avenue for people. Do you think that that's going to be something we can see a lot more of in the future?
Yeah, so one of our other strengths is that since I don't really care about the financial side of things at VR Villa, we always have a good time and really enjoy. We are completely supported by the events themselves, so at least I don't have to keep coming out of my own pocket and my own business, but even though I'm glad what I'm able to do and accomplish for these years. There is a bit of a barrier for a lot of new players or people who are just getting into VR to try it out themselves. I mean, that's part of the whole experience with us is teaching and educating every single individual on how to operate a headset, how to open up an app, and how to play the game. So that's one of my biggest restrictions of what game content I can have on the show floor. It's actually how well knowledgeable my staff is for that event. So sometimes I might have more of my highly trained VR techs who know maybe half of our library where we can put 30, 40 games on the floor. Because we teach every single person how to play a game. We don't just, here's your headset, you go on the corner and you figure out yourself. It's more about, here's the controls, here's how to do this, here's how to go here, here's how you reload the weapon, or here's how you interact with the environment of this particular game. So people can have this nice one-on-one guided experience and they go straight to the action and have a good fun. Because when we have done other activations where we just basically had headsets, people will get off right away. They will have questions all the time. And when they ask questions, we actually have to run back over there, and our servicing time increases significantly. We have to walk more physically and do a lot more. So we find that if we just handhold a brand new customer or people who don't know the game and teach them, and if I can put someone in a headset, teach them the game and walk away in 60 seconds or less, that is the lowest barrier bar that I love. And they'll play for 20 minutes, and I think our average play time holistically is about 28 minutes since we started doing this.
That's impressive. We've
been hitting larger venues and larger activations. We're bringing way more headsets than we should. 100 headsets. We have so much available headsets and game content that we don't hit wait lists anymore. So when people come on, people are getting off. Clean the systems, get the next person.
Right.
So we have something available for anybody and everybody. And the other thing is the demographics. Because we're such large, family-friendly public events, we hit everybody, all the way from 10-year-old kids that we service, all the way to 80, 90-year-olds who really want to sit down and play cookout together with their kids.
That's great. That's great.
People who were 3 generations sit down and play cookout for an hour. So it's
Yeah.
great to have that level of connection.
Well, I'm looking forward to digging into that a little bit more. Jeff, thank you so much. I'm going to turn it back to Matt now.
All right, thank you, Jeff and Caroline. Ray, if you want to make your way up here. So Ray Kallmeyer is a veteran of the AAA video game industry who founded Enclu, a pioneering spatial marketplace connecting players and operators of holographic theaters. Inspired by his first experience with HoloLens, Ray leads Enclu's mission to make augmented reality accessible, fostering genuine human connections through immersive, screen-free experiences.
Thank you, Matt. Appreciate being here today. Quick show of hands, who's played a AAA game recently on a console? I don't have much time for that sort of stuff either. Who's played a VR device in the last week or so? Okay, cool. More than the console games, that's great. Who's played a game on their phone in the last year? Cool, it's easy. It's easy to get into that. So yeah, as Matt mentioned, my background is in AAA games. I started coding pretty young. I was building text-based games in grade school. And it was about that same time that I was also going door-to-door selling candy to fund a school trip to DC. That kind of combination of develop and build things and also sell things really pushed my spirit towards the games industry early on. I was fortunate to work with Sony right out of the gate, and then some other really incredible titles over my tenure, both in terms of the people I work with, which the games industry has some of the best people I've ever worked with, and in terms of the innovations that I was fortunate to be a part of. Early on, it was the transition from every studio has their own game engine team to studios using platforms like Unreal and Unity to start offloading a lot of the foundational work so they could build more interesting games at a higher level. Then it was a transition from building for consoles and a subscription or box model to the transition to mobile games with the microtransaction model. Both those are pretty seismic shifts for the industry. And now I think the industry is going through a series of seismic shifts simultaneously. You obviously have the rise of AI and how that's changing the way people do work and the kinds of games that people can play. But also in the complete diversification of the kinds of experiences available for gamers, both grown up and to be grown up. So let's go on to the next slide. So about almost 10 years ago, I put on my first augmented reality device, and it almost hit me like a lightning bolt out of the sky. At the time, I was building studios for NCSoft, and I immediately put in my 2 weeks. Everyone thought I was crazy, including my family and friends. But for me, there was something really special there. And that was, with augmented reality, for the first time, you could bring your games into the real world in a meaningful way, where you could be a player in a game, in what we call first-person medium, where it's not a third-person character you're controlling, it's actually you that characters are talking to in your immersive world. So many winding roads and mountains to climb later, Enclu, my company, turns real places into playable worlds. We built an ecosystem that effectively transforms physical space into an interactive augmented reality landscape. We're now in 20 markets in 5 countries and hundreds of thousands of hours played. We've been fortunate to partner with some of the biggest names in the industry in location-based, like Dave & Buster's. We debuted our platform at E3 in 2019. The last year was a real E3 rest in peace. Also some cool vanguards like Meow Wolf in the entertainment industry, and also some big brands you might recognize as well there. Without diving too much into what it looks like, why don't we head over to the video and I can kind of talk over what it is that we do.
And I'll apologize ahead of time that the audio might not come through.
That's okay, I'll just hum along and
right.
like my tunes.
Oh, hang on, let me resize this while we're doing it. Give me a second.
So yeah, that's our platform in action there. You're going to see a series of pop-ups that we ran early on, kind of establishing what augmented reality could be. And really quickly we learned there was something special about the social experience. Being able to see other people in the room with you, make eye contact, and still play games simultaneously. And what started as a couple pop-ups turned into a repeatable model. This is our head of marketing is going to tell you about immersive. This is our showroom here in Chicago, actually. You can come check it out. I've got a few tickets with me, so if you want to come ask for them later, I don't have enough for everybody, I'm sorry, but the first couple people come and ask, I'll have to share them with you. What this is it's a repeatable augmented reality theater model. So people are buying tickets to this, just like you would for a theater, and they're coming to experience it like a movie, but it's interactive, it's gameplay. So it's part cinematic, it's part first-person adventure game. We have a series of different first-party titles that we've developed, and we're now operating at the scale where we're welcoming solicitation for external developers to submit their content for launching in our theater chain. As I mentioned, with 20 of them out there, we're starting to grow pretty big. We're adding a new one about every 2 weeks. We just opened one in Palm Springs. It's actually at a movie theater. A lot of them are at family entertainment centers, but we range from malls to you name it. People are enjoying social experiences, out-of-home entertainment, things they can't replicate in their own houses. As it mentions right there, it's great for date night, great for family members. It's great for the grown-up gamer. Guys like me or people like me who like playing games but simply don't have the time to play AAA games anymore. So here's the culmination of all that iteration right here. This is the Verse Immersive Arena. Sometimes we'll install in an existing room, but this is when we actually purpose-build a space. And you can see here, it's about 900 square feet, and it's filled with hours and hours of overlapping gameplay. So it's almost like the holodeck from Star Trek, if you're familiar, where you stay in the same place, there's multiple people, and you're seeing a different verse than maybe someone in a different group, but the people in your group are enjoying something together. This is Everworld. This is our latest release. Highly recommend come checking it out. This is the most interactive and game-like experience we have. Some of the earlier ones were more like walking through the park with a little tiny bit of interactivity. This one has 12 different realms, all with increasing difficulty of puzzles. We aim to make it very accessible, so we say 7 to 70. We also do creator events here in the city too. This is at our Block 37 showroom, the same one that you can experience Everworld at. We do these about once a quarter. Next time we do one, please come out. We'll show you our tools and welcome you to experiment and build some stuff for yourself. No experience required. By the end of the night, you'll come out with something pretty fun and interesting. And just recently, we started welcoming the next generation of AR glasses. It's not even fair to call them headsets anymore because they are in fact glasses now. That's been a long time coming. Raise your hand if you remember the videos that Google shared about 15 years ago. Made everyone think that how disappointing that wasn't real. But now there are. Now we've got glasses coming out now. The things have been miniaturized enough. There's actually factories churning out these things. And here's a fun little magic trick that I love doing on stage now. You used to not be able to do this with a VR device or a HoloLens, but now you can actually fit these things in your pocket. So these are the spectacles. They're not publicly available yet. Developers have access to them. I'm happy to share them with you if you want to come meet back there and show you a little demo we've got in place. So that leads us to the future. So I'm sure you're all familiar with phones. This is how we connect with the internet. This gives us superpowers in the modern world. These are soon moving towards glasses where we'll be able to interact. First in entertainment use cases and media use cases, social use cases. That's why I'm super bullish on Snap because they really understand what it means to socialize new kinds of hardware like this. But very soon, the entire world is going to turn into an interactive canvas. And it's going to be not me or my company that builds the software or the content that goes on top of the whole world. It's going to be all of us. We're going to need a lot of help, and a lot of people are going to build a lot of really cool stuff. And it's a very exciting time to play in augmented reality. So if you want to learn more about what we're up to or what the possibilities are in augmented reality, happy to chat with you back there, and also happy to give you a demo of the pre-release spectacles, which I'm super fan of. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Ray. So one thing that you glossed over this really quickly, so I'm going to hit you on it. You said that you made the transition very quickly from AAA gaming to and AAA game design to spatial computing. What spurred the why you said you stopped on a dime? What was it that made you kind of come to that decision?
Yeah, great question. So I remember the day and the moment very clearly. I was sitting in my apartment in Silicon Valley and I put on the HoloLens 1. If you're familiar, the HoloLens 1 is effectively 2 bricks tied to your head with duct tape. And it felt like that, and you look through a little slit and you see some little augmented reality projections. But even still, back then, it was like a lightning bolt. It felt, in a way, like, aha, this is what I have been building my skills my entire career for. Now, rolling back the clock, while I was coding video games, I was also enjoying hikes outside. I like the outdoors. But I always felt like there was a strong tension between wanting to connect with other people and connect with the outside and building and enjoying video games. It was like I have to choose indoor, screen, and kind of isolation, or I could spend my time playing game, interacting with people outside. Augmented reality, I think, has a real possibility to rewrite our relationship with technology, where we can be present with each other, make eye contact, be present in a physical space, and also get points. So when I saw that, I realized, oh my gosh, this is work that matters. I'm happy to quit my career. Everyone's going to call me crazy. But this is kind of work that I felt like on my deathbed, if I spend 10, 15 years doing this, it's something I'll look back and be proud of.
Excellent. Following up on that though, because you said this, you have projects like the Unreal Garden and Verse Immersive, which are a really sort of unique mix of storytelling and design and live interaction. How do you think that these hybrid experiences sort of change what gamers expect from games?
That's a great question. So I think we're all familiar, or probably mostly familiar with the first-person shooter genre and kind of the action genre, where you're controlling a character and seeing the outside world. A lot of that has a lot of similarities to what we're doing in augmented reality. But with augmented reality, you have a scenario where every player is their own cinematic director in such a profound way, because sightlines really matter when you're controlling the camera. It's unique in that you're not moving someone with a joystick, you're actually moving your physical body. Your body is the cursor. So a lot of things that make sense in video games don't necessarily make sense in augmented reality. And I think a lot of the things we're learning about augmented reality can parlay back to video games. Mechanics that are fun and engaging and activate your whole body. I think there's a whole new genre of, I think what you're picking up on as well, which is kind of a fitness-based or body-based gameplay that we're still just scratching the surface of. And Beat Saber is a great example of that, but it's, we're really at the early innings of, I think, a new revolution in games that's going to activate people more and get them moving.
All right, thank you very much.
Absolutely.
Before we do the transition, I just want to show hands up because you brought this up. So how many people have played Beat Saber? How many people have played Beat Saber so much that your muscles were actually sore? All right, thank you. With that, I'm going to hand it back over to Caroline to introduce Sonia Haskins.
Thank you so much, Matt. Well, I'm excited to have Sandra Haskins join us tonight, and I know Matt mentioned a little bit about AWE. She is the queen of AWE. So, Sonia, do you want to come up to the stage and I can introduce you and you can get on screen, if you don't mind? So, Sonia Haskins kind of fell into immersive tech totally by chance, and she has done a little bit of everything as an esports player, VR player, journalist, community organizer, advocate, industry leader, and just overall rock star, in my opinion. She has also worked behind the scenes in some capacity on many of the biggest names in the industry, and she's going to share a little bit about her work and also about the incredible event that she orchestrates, that is AWE. But so much more than that, Sonia. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for the introduction, Caroline. It's really nice to see everyone here. I see all the people in the audience. I'm going to try to kind of keep angled this way a little bit so that I can see you guys over there. And so yes, basically I am head of programming at AWE, and that means that I'm in charge of all the agenda, the speakers, and the special sorts of things we do. Like I help with the startup pitch competition, and this year, applicable to this discussion tonight, I also am organizing the new initiative, the Gaming Hub. I'm very excited about that. So I want to jump back a little bit though first and give you guys my history. So some of you have heard this, and I see some people in the audience that are new, so I wanted to share the history of how I got here because it's applicable to a lot of the decisions that people make, developers make, and people in the industry make in terms of how they market their games or who they think is going to play their games. So basically in April of 2017, my oldest son was being deployed to Afghanistan. We weren't really at all a tech household. I had a computer that I used sometimes for writing because I'm a journalist by trade. But pretty much I was a stay-at-home mom, and I raised my garden, took care of my kids, and had no inkling of virtual reality or immersive tech, and I didn't really know much about tech at all. And my son wanted me to go with him to the store before he was deployed to try something. I said, what is it? And he said, it's called virtual reality. And I was like, okay, this sounds really silly, but I'll go. So I put the headset on, and honestly, it was just the moment. It still gives me chills when I think about it because it changed my life. I literally felt like I was in a different place, and that it was just so amazing. You know, every time I do these presentations online, it seems like I think they have the train scheduled to come right when I start talking. So if you hear the train, that's it. They have it coordinated to when I'm doing it.
They do.
They literally do. I think this was the last time we were doing something that was the train started. But so anyway, basically I bought the headset, went home, started playing, and I had been in a wheelchair the year before, and so I had a lot of health problems, but up to this point, in April of 2017, I couldn't walk a lot. I couldn't really stand up very well, maybe about 10 minutes at a time, so I played seated. And long story short, I was very, very good at a game called Echo Arena. Matt can attest to this, and I became a top player in that game to the point that I qualified to compete at the Nationals for a league that Oculus, that Oculus had started called the VR Challenger League, became the VR League. And so I was going to go out to California to compete in this competition. And they were asking, well, first of all, they kind of all thought in the beginning that I was a little boy, and because my voice is high-pitched and you can't see people in VR, so they just assumed that I was male, because it sways more male when you play online games generally, but that's really not necessarily true. It's just people think that because the guys talk more, because when girls talk, typically they're harassed and everything else. So they thought I was a little boy, and I'm like, I'm not a little boy. I'm like, I'm a woman. And they're like, oh, a girl. Oh, will you date us? And I'm like a grown woman. And so, people were just like, oh, well, that's weird. And so then when I got ready to go out to California to compete, they were asking, does anybody need anything? And nobody did, except I said, well, I need a chair. And they were like, why do you need a chair? And I said, because I play in a chair. And they really didn't believe it. Matt may remember this, but they honest to goodness could not believe that I could play better than them in a chair. And so I said, I don't know what to tell you. And so get better. And so I went out to California, and I'm sitting there, and I'm playing and practicing, and I took my headset off. There was like all these people watching me. And it was the weirdest thing. I think it was one of those moments where I realized that my perspective was different enough to them that maybe there was a learning moment here, a teaching moment, and a learning moment for them, but ability for me to be able to teach something. And so I started talking with them, and I was like, your perspective is what else you see here. All the other 50 guys here around the same age, I think all of them were white men, around 30-ish, 25 to 30-ish or something. And then there was me, and I'm a woman, I'm older, I'm overweight, and I could barely walk. And so it was just an interesting perspective. And I told them, I said, the thing is, you have to build your experiences not from your bubble. Like, step outside of your bubble. Stop thinking only from your perspective. And, so many people would love to play VR. Like, here I am, just some person, minding my business, never heard of this, put it on, and I love it. Other people will use this if you give them the opportunity, but they can't do it if you make it so they literally can't play. Like, some things at that time in 2017, I couldn't even play because I couldn't stand up. I couldn't pull levers or walk across the room. And so, I encourage them to really be thinking of, are the avatars, if I wanted to play a shooter game, half the time I couldn't play the shooter game because the gun would be in my breast and I couldn't grab it. So somebody's killing me before I can pull my gun out. And I'm like, look, people, can you not please have like a barrier here? Everybody's not a skinny white guy. You've got breasts and stomachs and fat hips and everything else. And so, it's just one of those things where they needed a little bit, to think of a little bit different perspective. So that was cool, and did that, and so I started really getting involved with a lot of the VR games, as Caroline had mentioned, and so, Population 1, Larcenauts, Echo VR, just a lot of the different games that have been in the industry that have done very well. I tested, consulted on, usually 100% almost volunteer basis, because I just believe in what we were doing. Helped with the communities, built the Discord groups, things like that, and then eventually I realized I won't go into this because we don't have a lot of time, but basically it changed my life in more ways than one, and one of those was in these games, because you have social settings, I started talking to people about just life, and I realized, like, I like this stuff, but in my world, in my life, very conservative, rural, religious area of the country, I maybe didn't have awareness of certain things, or my lifestyle choices were made based on the only things I knew. And as I met these people in VR, and I started traveling and going to events, I started realizing, wow, I'd like to travel more, and I like meeting these people, and maybe I'd like to try different things or talk about things. And so eventually I started doing that, and it created kind of a separation with my lifestyle then and my lifestyle now. And so I just realized, like, it's okay for me to be happy and to do things and to work, for example, outside the home. And so I separated from my husband in 2020, basically was homeless for a little while, built, I don't know how much you can see, but yes, I have plants and I have chickens in the next room, but I built this myself. I put in the kitchen, put in bathrooms. I had no bathrooms for about 6 months, went outside in the woods to do my thing. And so, you know, I worked really hard and I didn't have a job. Well, then one day I was pretty much out of money. I did a little side writing jobs, but I was pretty much out of money. And Rory Inbar, who's the founder of AWU, called and he said, "Can I chat with you?" And I was like, "Sure." And I went to meet him in my standard attire because I'm very much a believer in comfortability. And then I realized it was actually a job interview. And he said he wanted me to maybe think about being head of programming for AWE. And I was like, that sounds cool. So I really was interested. I needed money. I wanted to eat, which is good. But the main thing for me was, will I still be able to work with the community? And if I don't like it, I'll leave because, you know, life is short, guys. And if you're not enjoying what you're doing, then you need to do something else. So
I love that message. I love that message, Sonia. And I think that I want for people to ask these questions after we get to that place, because what you have created with the energy of the community of AWE is something pretty rare. So I know we're going to have time for some questions here, but I love that. I think that's like the perfect, you know, ism that we all need to remember. It's such a good message for everybody else to know and hear that story. It's amazing. Thank you.
Well, that goes on to, I'll shut up now, but basically that's...
No, I love it, right? We could talk forever.
Yeah.
All right, well, great. Hi.
How I got here, and I'm always happy to answer questions.
That's amazing.
So thank you very much.
That's amazing.
Bye.
Yes, thank you. Well, I want to hear this game hub at AWE. What was the sort of evolution of that? Like, how did you come up with what that is going to look like? Or is that still in process now, I guess?
Yeah, so I'm so excited about this. I'll tell you really quick, for anyone who's watching this, who's interested in XR games, virtual reality, augmented reality, or mixed reality games, then definitely this is the year you want to come. So basically, I listened to all my friends who play games and make games, and developers, creators, and stuff, and that was what the Gaming Hub, kind of the impetus for it, and creating a space, because we no longer have F8, we no longer have E3, and you can go to GDC, which is awesome, but you have to find the XR people. And so we wanted to create a space where they can come to AWE. It's all about XR, and they can easily find Game Hub. So there's a big, huge hub in the expo hall just for XR games. And this is our first year, so, you know, let us know what you like or don't like. But we also have there's a stage there. There's going to be speakers, developers, other people. There'll also be some things I invited, like, for example, a special speaker this year that we have for main stage is Noah Bushnell, who's founder of Atari.
Wow.
And his kids all work in XR, so they're going to be doing a chat with him. So we've got talks, booths, networking just for gaming people, and demos in the hub. I'm so excited about it. It's going to be great. Oh, and content creators. I see the slide popping up there. So yeah, we invited the largest content creators to come and actually try the games on site, chat with the developers, talk with other people. And a lot of people who are attending are like, wow, we want to meet this content creator in person.
Right.
So we really want to create a special space so that building on that this year, next year, it can be like that E3 or F8 or GDC experience, all at AWE with XR game devs and people.
All right, everybody who's out there in the audience, you better take tickets now.
I can't pick.
Awesome.
So thank you.
Awesome. All right. All right, Matt, back to you.
All right, thank you, Caroline. So at this point, while we're going, I'm going to have everybody who's spoken come back on up to the stage. Sonia and Jeff, make your way up to the stage in the virtual space and turn your cameras back on. If you guys can grab one of those microphones to share, because Ron's going to need the other one for Q&A.
Sorry, guys.
So here's how Q&A works, just for everyone who's not been here before, because we had some new folks. And when we get to the speaker slide. So what happens is, if you have a question in the physical space here, simply just raise your hand. I will try to keep... I'm getting weird sound effects right now. Okay. I will try to keep track of sort of when hands went up. Caroline is going to let me know. I can sort of watch the virtual space and see. Caroline will let me know if there's a question in the virtual space. And so if there is, she'll let me know. Well, they can call on speakers in the virtual space. Tom over there is going to be watching our live stream to YouTube. There are people who might comment and ask a question from there as well. If they do, Tom will raise his hand. The microphone will go to him. But with that said, who's got our first question? And it's already right. Yeah, there's a hand went up real fast. So we'll go to our first question right here. And you can ask again, anybody, you can ask any of the speakers or you can ask all of the speakers. Our speakers can also just kind of chat between themselves. I will ask our speakers to try to keep any one individual answer to like 2 minutes or less, because there does tend to be, we want to get everyone's questions answered. Go ahead.
Thanks. I think both of you have kind of talked about, well, all of you have talked a little bit about shared gaming experiences, and I'm just kind of curious what the state of the art is now around the ability to have people in the same physical space experiencing the same game through like AR. What do you see as the current state of that, and what are the challenges?
I can akin to, we run two different co-location mixed reality games called Laser Limbo and Spatial Ops. Both of them are amazing augmented reality, mixed reality game titles. We've been working with them for over 2 years on those titles individually. We've been putting them out on the floor, even when we had just the Quest 2s, which still were a great experience besides being black and white. The aha moment for a lot of people who are just getting into VR or even just first time mixed reality experience for co-location was extremely high. They really saw the value, especially when we told them the price points for these systems that people went and literally went on Amazon and showed me right there after playing for 5 minutes. So just doing co-location multiplayer is unique, and it really gets people excited, especially when you have something intuitive. But also, just the tech-wise, knowing from both of the studios who run those and develop them, it was a lot of work from the developer side to make that work well, which required a lot of input for Meta to fix. So it took years to get to that point to where I can put someone in a headset, do co-location, spatial ops, and send them on the way, and not have the tech fail. So it's a lot of interesting things. And the last thing is for multiplayer games, it's about 60% of all the game sessions that we do with our VR game rooms. So it's quite important.
Yeah, I would.
Chime in on anything?
Yeah.
Experience? No. Okay.
I would add definitely drop by Verse Chicago to check out state-of-the-art multiplayer AR gameplay. To echo what Jeff had mentioned, building multiplayer augmented mixed reality is as challenging as building a high-frequency real-time multiplayer game. But you have a much smaller market that you can target right now. It's growing, which means you have to have really dedicated developers to solve all the hard problems that are necessary. In the VR space, just to highlight it, I'd say Sandbox VR is full body, got a lot of really great stuff. They got a facility north of Chicago. Go check that out. And then in the augmented reality space, keep an eye on Snapchat. They're doing a lot of really great stuff for developers, giving them tools to create co-located games and experiences, which I think is going to both lower the barrier to entry. You see a lot more developers building real-time augmented reality games. And then it's like any time you do a democratization play, we're going to see a bunch of really crazy cool new ideas that are going to come out that we've never even anticipated before. So it's an exciting time to be paying attention to co-located augmented reality.
else want to jump in? Okay. Caroline, you got questions in there?
No, but if it's okay, I want to ask a question.
Go for it.
Of everybody is, how can developers better design for accessibility at the start and not just have it be an add-on? What is your best advice when you're talking to developers or feedback?
Yeah, I can start with that. Actually, I'll start with this, but I want to tie it into the last question and say, I think that we are seeing a movement toward, with the hardware, if you look at the hardware, everything's going toward mixed reality. We're going toward not pure VR headsets, which I prefer, for example, and away from like just AR, like with the phones, for example. We're going to glasses and hardware where you can transition back and forth between having this on and using the mixed reality or augmented reality experiences. So I think that's important to point out, because if people are going to jump into this industry and start developing, they need to understand where it's going. You can't just build for something that was happening 5 years ago. You've got to build for the future. And to your point, Caroline, with that question, one thing that concerns me, a concern I have, or an issue with mixed reality or augmented reality in these glasses and stuff, for example, is a lot of this is based on movement within the environment. Like with virtual reality, you have a avatar that you can, with your joystick or flying or jetpack or whatever, you can move it around in virtual reality, which creates an accessibility situation where even someone who's totally paralyzed and laying in the bed, they can still use that headset with a little bit of movement. They can move around. But with where I see this going and the newer things, like even some of the games I like, and I try not to mention specific games just because people know my name, and if I do something, I feel like I get in trouble because then they're like, oh, you said something bad about us. So I'll just say, a lot of the newer things that are coming out where they use that large-scale movement, and I'm sure Jeff and everybody here can attest to it that's using it, like if I'm sitting still in a chair, I can't do that because it requires you to do that. So in answer to your question about accessibility, I think first of all, we have to solve some of these problems together. And second of all, you have to start from the beginning with many, many, many different types of people. If you're a developer in a whole studio with healthy young guys that move around, they're not even going to remotely think of this because people don't think outside their perspective. And that example I gave a minute ago about the guns and my body shape, you have to have different types of people, different ages, different, abilities, using and testing your games from the beginning. You can't do this after the fact. You need to do it from the beginning and make sure you have input from a variety of various types of humans if you actually want your game to be playable by these different types of humans. So that would be my biggest piece of advice, is start from the beginning to build it as an accessible game versus trying to back after the fact and say, well, we might address that later on, because the fact is most people aren't going to.
Right.
The one thing I would like to put in there is I would love to see more games, at least for navigation purposes, that are using one controller and having controls for UI that are a lot easier to manage. So a lot of people who I've put on in the disability community may not be able to play the game with two controllers. We went to a hospital about maybe 2 years ago, and unfortunately there was a lot of burn victims in that particular scenario, where a couple people could not use their hands or had actually just one hand that was available. So when we put them on a headset, we put something in content that they could play, and that they could have that accessibility and play with their friends who are fully able. And then also the side of the fact is just the enabling, navigating the menu systems from a UI experience, especially when I'm helping people. I don't have access to both controllers. It makes me a little bit fumbled just to help other people. So as a VR operator, that ends up having a little bit of a barrier. So that's what we tell developers. Make it so that you can hand them off and teach people, make it easy for them ability to learn and make it intuitive controls, not just for, but for people who may have, they can't have that's another control, especially if you're in a very loud environment, or just a better visual UI, clean slate. So,
adds to that for anybody interested in that. I did some surveys a while back, and basically when I first started playing, many people around the world were contacting me, and I was totally shocked by that. I can only use one hand, or I'm missing a body part, or whatever. That was one of the #1 requests. Was I would want to go to the top SOS, or my shoes. Top request. People had issues reading and seeing with a controller, and other requests included they were deaf and they still wanted to play. They couldn't pick anyone else because nobody had made any sort of way for them to use hand. This was before we had hand tracking. Now it's better because we actually have some games where you can use sign language even. And so that's something to consider. And then also people who were blind. Now, this is where people need to realize blind, you can be legally blind and some people who are legally blind in little environments and headset and can actually see better in headset than they can shots. That would be a question, but there are many types of people in the world. So look stats on what are the most common disabilities, and I can guarantee those are going to be the people who are going to want to be using VR, so you need to try to build stuff that makes your game.
Is that
Hey guys, I'm going to interrupt you for a second. Sorry, Jeff and Pasco, can you guys hear me? Hello. Jeff and Haskell, you guys hear me?
Yeah, I'll find it and share it.
Hello, can you guys hear me or no? Sorry, we're having some internet issues here. Give me a second. I'm going to try and do a switch.
We can hear you.
All right.
Can you hear us?
You guys were coming in and out, and you guys kept kind of going back and forth, and you were getting really choppy for a second there. So give me a second. I'm going to try and do a real quick course correct. I'm hoping I don't disconnect, but if I do, I'll be right back in like 2 seconds. So give me just a second.
Yeah, we'll try to not answer it at the same time too.
So hopefully, this is an experiment we're doing real time right now. I'm going to see if my networking actually goes to the wired network where it should be. Looks like it is. Can you guys hear me? Maybe.
No, we can't.
You can't?
I can't hear you in frame.
And I'm at a no internet. Okay, lovely. I'm going back to Wi-Fi.
He'll be back in. Yeah, we'll be back in a second. He's connecting.
Alright. Come on. There we go. So sorry guys, I was trying to solve some of our internet issues here. Just be aware that you guys kind of have to not really talk fast. Give me a sec, let me get my screen back up there. Sorry about that. I was trying to, because the last couple seconds were choppy. While we're doing that, I don't know if you guys want to jump in and answer on that question on accessibility at all, Ray, or...
Yeah, I'll do a quick little answer. I think adding to what Sonia and Jeff already mentioned, I was fortunate early on in our company's history to talk with the educational philosopher Zachary Stein about universal accessibility, and he really opened my eyes to the idea of building for everybody. And one of the analogies he gave was the idea of a beautiful building facade. And as an architect, you can put every single bell and whistle into a design, but if you forget to create an accessibility ramp, and then you have to end up adding it after the fact, as Sonia mentioned, it'll ruin your whole design. Whereas instead, if you think about it from the outset, and you create like a nice curving arc as part of the facade, then you're building as a holistic design which stands on its own. So I think when I've approached this from the design perspective, there's a couple different lenses I try to bring to bear. One, which is what is the essence of the experience I'm trying to get across? The essence is going to be different if it's, or the essence is going to be the same, but the implementation is going to be different if it's on mobile or VR or console. These are different inputs, but you're generally trying to evoke some sort of gameplay. And then as a designer, it's on us to figure out how to translate that essence into an input mechanic. And you can choose what level of difficulty are we trying to achieve. Some input is very difficult, and the exact opposite of accessible. but it might be fun and compelling for super skilled players to really, min-max or develop their unique skill in that regard. But you can also create designs which are very accessible to a broad range of different players. Gameplay that requires a ton of inputs is generally less accessible. Gameplay that requires less teaching is going to be more accessible. So we've tried to create experiences at NCLU that are accessible for all ages, meaning there's not a whole lot of knowledge you need to have coming into the game to understand it, and also that are imminently shareable. And not just not that you can share with other people, but that you can have fun with someone else playing immediately without needing to understand how to play the game.
I just wanted to add one thing too, because even with our game, even though it's movement based, we do take body measurements before, and so we've had people like just in a seated position, they can try to like move their hands out to block the avatar. Because I think that was important to us to make it inclusive from the get-go, and I don't even have a game design background, but I just know like in terms of play, that was our mission to make sure like we want to make this open and have it available, and I think maybe with a lot of devs, they copy, like, I've seen it with user interfaces, like, oh, this game does it this way, so that's how we should do ours. Where I think you have to come with a very open mindset from the beginning and even focus on how can we make it as intuitive as possible, looking at it, from just opening up the game.
All right, Ron, was there a question in the room? Yep, there we go.
I'm not even sure what this question is, but for Ray and Christine, I find it fascinating that we're talking about digital worlds, things that don't exist, and yet there's a real estate component to your projects. They're literally physical spaces that have to be applied to these virtual worlds. And I'm just wondering, just how did you handle that? Did it come as a sort of a shock, like, oh my God, we have 20 of these we have to make, now I have to have 20 real estate deals, or, I don't, like I said, I'm not quite sure what my question is, but I've never heard of a game company that has sort of had to deal with this on these kind of levels.
Yeah, no, it's a very interesting new set of challenges when you're dealing with the physical space. Some people, like Kevin Williams from the Stinger report, will call it phygital, in that it's got elements of physical and digital. And one acute point of concern is, like, let's say someone trips. Well, whose fault is that? Who's liable? That's a new question we have to answer. Like, if the gameplay made someone trip, is it the developer or is it the physical space operator? And then it starts to get really interesting when you have, things like, who owns the commercial lease? Are they the ones that are actually running the experience, or is it the people hosting the experience in the cloud? So there's a lot of new questions that really blur the lines of what existing rules, regulations are. But beyond the rules and laws, you also have a unique mindset where there's multiple digital realities overlaid on the same physical space, which completely just changes the way we think about physical space. If there might be 6,000 feet of walkable physical space, you might have 1 million square feet of digital playable space overlaid in that same area, which then creates new kinds of roles and responsibilities for game developers. Now you don't just have a level designer, you also have something akin to a interior designer who maps existing digital content onto a physical space. And then all of these things are kind of multiplied when you think of augmented reality. The background is part of the experience. You can't really separate the backdrop from the game any more than you could remove the background from a movie. It's part of the overall experience players get. Someone needs to think about that, someone needs to manage that. Now all of a sudden as a game developer, you also have to be good at designing and managing physical spaces too, like your Disney.
So I'm just going to say really quickly, I apologize to you in the virtual space. When I did my little refresh there, I forgot to turn my megaphone back on. So it's back on now, you should be better. They were having some audio issues in the visual space. So, sorry about that. Wanted to just sort of have Christine chime in a little bit on what you said though, because you had mentioned the whole concept of like, well, who's responsible for what's happening in the space, particularly for Jeff and Christine, because you guys are frankly temporarily walking into someone else's space usually when you're setting this up. So how have you run into that where there's a concern about what happens if someone, gets injured or gets hurt or damages equipment or damages the space itself?
Well, for our activation,
Check your mic.
for our activations, like when we did the Cleveland Cavaliers, it was in their arena. So we had a waiver that we had to address and have everyone sign ahead of time. So, I mean, thankfully nobody got injured, but you know, this is a litigious country, so you have to prepare for that. And so yeah, that's how, and we had safety protocols, like we had, I had the local college players that were in sports and marketing come and assist me. So we always had someone in the play area to guard against anyone like running in out of the play area. So we put some safety precautions in. So I think you just have to think ahead of time and test it and see what can go wrong. We also had to observe if people were wasted because they're at an NBA game or a basketball game. They are all drinking, and some drink a lot. So we just had to like politely tell them like, this really isn't for you tonight. So it's like different scenarios like that. You have to be aware of like what type of audience you are going to attract and be very mindful of that and plan ahead.
Yeah, so for VR Villa, every single person that comes to our game room, they do have to sign a waiver form, and they have to get a pass through our check-in system. So we have a legal way, at least a barrier to make sure people are understanding the ramifications of what they're about to do or anything like that. We have a commercial insurance event provider for my business so that we're covered on that legal aspects as well. And then we also work with the venues themselves to make sure that the venue also has insurance coverage in case something else happens that isn't us. Like if they just tripped on a wire that wasn't my wire, it was the venue wire, then that's something that most convention centers and venues have that coverage as well. So we've never exercised this in 9 years of doing this, of anything. And I have never seen anybody run around and punch somebody in a headset by accident because they're playing the game incorrectly. Or I've had headsets falling on the floor, but for most intended purposes, we really haven't had any major incidents or efforts or lostage or anything other than maybe come back with a damaged headset once in a blue moon. So realistically, for us, we've never had a problem. And people do ask us that, oh, am I going to play this game? I'm playing until you fall. I'm going to be punching and dodging and weaving. Well, now with the Quest systems, you know, if you get out of your player space that bound to that physical location, the cameras will turn on. You have mixed reality pass through, and you get that spatial orientation there. And they're like, okay, well, it looks like you're moving. And also the fact that we do have a lot of staff on call, so we're constantly being very vigilant just by my team to make sure everybody's in their play space every 5-10 seconds. There's always some sort of level of staff or eyeballs making sure people are in the right place, right time. And if there's any issues, we'll step in there in seconds and correct that, saying, hey, it looks like you're a little bit out of your play space. You're a little too close to cover for your neighbor. But the mixed reality games, we've never had an issue, especially with the pass-through cameras being enabled all the time. So people love it.
I'm going to go with I'm the person in VR who has punched somebody else while I was playing. I won't say where it happened, I won't say who it was, but I have absolutely punched somebody else. All right, so we do have a question coming in.
Well, the last thing is, I have been punched by players because I'm in their play space and I'll be maybe changing their batteries. With my staff, we call that the Ninja Challenge, when we run around and try and change batteries while people are playing. It's a fun little game, but we get punched. That's the only way.
So your employees are the ones at risk. Okay, so we have a question coming in from the YouTube from live stream. This one's a little bit more, I guess, down the line in terms of the technology. So this is from Francis on YouTube. And I'll ask, this can go to any of the panelists, so I'll let you guys just answer this, choose who answers. But do you guys see the possibility of using some of the more advanced data collection in terms of like the motion data where you're tracking muscle movement, where you're possibly eventually in the near future actually tracking brainwave or things like that, or pulse rate, in terms of either piping that in and using that as part of the gameplay to determine what's going to happen, or also to possibly use that data, sort of longer term to track things like the, someone's mobility decline or the fact that they're like losing some of their mobility that they might have had earlier. So I'll let you guys chew on that for a second, decide who's going to go first. I see Ray nodding his head, so go ahead.
I can go to that if that's
Oh,
okay.
go ahead, Sonia.
Okay, so I'll jump into that question for a couple reasons. One is because we already can do that, actually. There's a lot of possibility of things are already being done or have been done for a while. So let's say, for example, even a few years ago, one of the games I was playing, based on the data collected from the game, like let's say you're playing a game where you have your avatar, you have a ball or disc or whatever, and you're throwing that or you're jumping or whatever, you can extrapolate someone's height. You can extrapolate, you can gather what their accuracy is. You can get a lot of things like, for example, their reflex rate. So this was being done even a few years ago. Now this is definitely something they're on, and what happened, I mean, you almost have to do it in order to build a game correctly. Like, if you have any game that involves like balls being thrown, what you think is going to happen. Because like also, if the cameras are here, and somebody brings their arm here to throw something, so there's also a certain make sure this just doesn't already happen to a degree. But the reason I want to jump into this question is to say, yes, it's possible, it's already being done. There's a lot more into this about what else can be done with that. For example, that it shows your reflex rate or your speed or your height or whatever it is. Well, then in that same game, when they're looking at that data, well, what happens if you see a decline? What happens if you see the data shows that you're getting slower, or you're having a problem with your shots on your left side versus your right side and stuff? So I put in a lot of time arguing the case that we need to be real careful with some of this, because as simple as you can tell, like let's say you have a ball game like Christine's, and someone's shooting, you're collecting data, and based on the position of where they're shooting from, you figure out that they're only 4 feet tall. Okay, that seems not like a big deal, except that if they're 4 feet tall, okay, statistically they're probably a kid. So then, if everybody else has access to this data, well then do you really want someone to know that you have a 10-year-old or 11-year-old, that's how old this person is? Because we need to care. A whole lot of issues surrounding this. I think it's great to collect data, and you have to do some things to build the game properly. But on the other hand, we have to be really careful how this stuff is used, because it can lead into be cautious about what is being done with that. So there's my input on that question. Thank you. Thank you for my TED Talk.
Did you want to jump in, Ray? Or?
Yeah, I would highlight two different examples that I think are really interesting. One is Neuralink. There's already people who have effectively been fully paralyzed using brain interfaces to control gameplay. That's right now a very limited use case, but already happening in the real world. And not just like Tetris, but like advanced gameplay, being able to directly pipe into their brain and then control advanced mechanics that way. So I think that sort of thing is going to get more commercially available, and it's going to be really interesting where that goes. Then you also have another example, less invasive, would be Meta's Orion glasses. They come with glasses, and they also have two wearable devices that effectively, I think one's a wrist and then another's on one of your fingers. And what they do is they read your nerve pulses, and they pipe that into AI so they can actually get meaningful intention data out of that. Meaning that a little bit of your motion goes a very long way in being able to control intention and the experiences. I unfortunately have not got to experience it myself, but I've seen the videos, and people that have got to experience it, I've talked to, have said it feels absolutely magical, like the thing is reading your mind. So I think there's going to be a lot of really interesting ways to apply that as a new kind of interface in certainly augmented reality, probably virtual reality as well.
I see a question right here.
This question is mostly about, so between Raymond, Christine, and Jeff, you both, all of you do basically location-based entertainment, right? So you're going to a physical space, you're providing the hardware. How do you see that adapting in the future? Do you see your companies and your products being more consumer-based, where you're eventually doing things where you're selling it to people who already own headsets? Or do you see there just being a good premium and a good business model around the LBE style of business model for kind of the specific things that you all are doing?
So I can start off with that. So we had actually ran a VR LBE arcade pre-COVID, and it was okay. It wasn't the most successful thing, but it was really expensive as a barrier to get in there before the Quest systems came out. In 2021, 2022, when the Quest systems became actually a consumer product that was intrinsically a much easier thing to operate as a VR arcade operator, that's when we started shifting over to a more free-to-play, regular generalistic idea as a community-based effort. And then for us, what makes me separate from a lot of VR arcades is the fact that we have a unique relationship with every single developer to operate royalty-free, to be gain access to their IP, to be able to present that holistically as a community effort towards the public. So I'm not someone there where people come and pay to play. This is really about showcasing as a marketing effort, as a brand awareness for the game content that exists. What I want to see for what I want to do is to explain to people what the technology is, how it's accessible, how cheap it is on their own time, promote all of the different contents even out there with LBE content, with Sandbox and others, and saying, if you like this, you're probably going to like that. And we do have conversations with like EVA. We're going to do a presentation with them in 2 weeks. We have concepts with other immersive texts, like with Meow Wolf and others, and really have that cross idea of just telling people awareness that this content exists. And for me, my end game, at least at some point, is to do retail sales of VR equipment directly to consumers. That's my end goal, but we still haven't been able to get to that point, right?
Yeah, and for us, it's similar, because we just did ours for marketing purposes. In terms of just testing, we wanted to test it live first before we spent more money. And just to see if it resonated with basketball fans, because that's our core, demographic. But also for marketing down the road, I will be looking for national sponsors so we can continue with activations at WNBA and NBA arena at their home games. And we have relationships with probably 10 teams right now.
Yeah, I think it's a really great question, by the way. So, thinking about where we're at as an industry, the maturity of the market, we're still very much in the phase in both AR and VR where a business can invest heavily in hardware and provide an experience that is significantly better than what you get at home. You can have a Quest device at home, but Sandbox VR adds full-body motion tracking and purpose-built space. Now, if it wasn't for something I'll mention in just a minute, I think that would be the case for probably about 10 or 20 years, where even as hardware got better at home, it would get even better in the business because you could invest even more. In that case, you'd still have a growing out-of-home market, and the consumer market wouldn't really cannibalize that at all. But there's a really interesting thing that's going to happen very soon, I think at least in AR, and I think what's going to happen is you're going to see the convergence of AR and VR with pass-through devices where it's one or the other. And that's where people start using immersive devices as their general case computing devices. Then all of a sudden, the drive to innovate comes less from businesses and more from the vast consumer market that can now start using immersive as a replacement for laptops and screens. Then you'll see a drive towards consumer hardware being the best hardware out there. And it will no longer be the case, likely, that you go to a physical space or location base to get better hardware. You'll still go there to have a curated social experience. So I don't think it's going away. Like, you still go to spend way too much on ramen because it's a fun social experience at a nice trendy joint, even though you can make a couple noodles at home. That will still exist even when everyone's walking around with Iron Man-like AR, VR devices on their face. That'll still happen. But you'll see social spaces be more about the curation and the people you're with, and the experience will before you put on the hardware and like during, that'll be still fun. But you'll see a growth of first in homes and then out of home market too. So not on location, but like in parks or everywhere in between. Kind of the glue of computing that we currently use our cell phones for will emerge, and that will then be the largest market segment. I don't think it's going to mean the location base is going to diminish, but it will mean that the consumer market in homes and out of homes will be like trillions of dollars, and the location base will be like tens of billions of dollars, like fully realized.
So
The last thing I do want to add to that is that there is a huge conversations with the VR consumer world and then the VR in the LBE world, where this misconception that both of them will cannibalize each other, and I believe that if there's a healthy margin of where both can exist and still grow from each other. Like you said, the LBE market for anything location based, not just VR or anything of the high tech, it's just anything immersion is about social experiences, and people are willing to pay to go out with their friends or their social clique to go out to these shared experiences. That's why we have conventions, that's why we have events, that's why we have sporting activation. But not just with me, but we're human, we're social. We like to go out and have shared experiences. Doesn't matter what content or whatever thing that is. It's about going out there. What's going to separate a lot of companies out there is the execution and making sure that their product or service or whatever they are presenting content-wise is going to meet the expectations or exceed what the consumer that is willing to pay for that service. So if that's going to be at home and they play a game like Beat Saber, or they go out and pay to go play Beat Saber in a tournament, if you do it right, people will.
Alright, so I'm going to jump in there and let our presenters know this is how we close the event. But I'm going to actually jump in, I'm going to add a little bit onto that answer and give you guys a chance to think after I explain how we close. So the way this is going to work, every one of our presenters, you guys basically get 1 minute to say whatever you want. Talk about, you can pitch your stuff, you can talk about what you've learned here, you can talk about just gaming in general in VR. Entirely up to you what you want to talk about. You get about 1 minute. I'm going to call on you in a random order, so start thinking about what you want to say. As soon as you guys are done talking, Caroline's going to give her closing remarks, I'm going to give my closing remarks. We're going to do a little bit of housekeeping in terms of like talking about what's coming next. And then we're going to, in the physical space, move back to actual physical networking and talking and trying all the demonstrations that you guys have brought. And then in the virtual space, you guys can stick around and talk as well, or feel free to obviously exit. But the thing I want to kind of jump in while you guys are thinking of your closing remarks here, show of hands, how many of you have been to a location-based entertainment VR space? How many of you have been to 2? 3? Okay, how many of you can name, there's at least 4 that I can think of in the Chicago area right now that most people don't realize. We just had a zero latency open up in Schaumburg. They were invited tonight, by the way, but frankly never heard back from them. There's Sandbox VR, which you had mentioned earlier. There's the Sony Omniverse out in Oak Brook. There's, I'm trying to think of the other ones, obviously, Verse Immersive at Block 37. Someone else called one? Did I hear another one? No? But there's several of these places, and the thing I'll say is, not a lot of people know about them. I'll just state that plainly, not a lot of people know about them. So I think, especially a lot of what Jeff is doing, a lot of what Christine are doing, which is, they're bringing VR out, like LBE, clearly location-based entertainment, but it's going into places where you're not traditionally going to necessarily expect to see VR. Because the awareness of this stuff is very low. And the way that I think about that is kind of like, okay, well you had coin-op, arcades back in the 70s, and then all of a sudden people had Atari and Nintendos, and they were having them at home, and people were like, oh, this is going to be the death of coin-op. And if you want to know about one of the more successful businesses that is right by my house is a place called Galloping Ghost, which is, frankly, the largest arcade with the old school games in the world, in terms of the number of games that they have. So that didn't go away, it just sort of morphed from I'm paying a quarter every time I want to play to I'm paying a $20 entrance fee and pay as much as I want, or what you have now at places like Dave & Buster's or other, more family entertainment centers where it's a combination of a restaurant and an arcade and all these other things. So this stuff's going to evolve, definitely, but I don't think you're going to see location-based entertainment go away anytime at all. It's going to definitely change. There's going to be people who are doing a lot more at home. As Ray said, the hardware is going to evolve. But what's neat about this is some of the way that you can create games in this is going to require dedicated locations. And that's going to be some of the cooler stuff, things like The Void, where you have to walk through a physical space and you can have different games mapped to it. But you can't kind of create that same type of space in your home, necessarily. With that said, I think I've stalled long enough, and I'm going to go with our first person to give their closing remark is going to be Jeff.
Yeah, so the first thing is, the number one thing I get to hear at all of my VR game rooms, I did not know this exists. Doesn't matter if they're a VR vet or they're first-time players. We have Fruit Ninja Space Pirate Trainer. Those are original launch titles of the Vive. They're 10 years old at this point. And we still have people who do not know those content exists. So what we want is to people understand this stuff exists, educate them, and then go out and have fun. It's important for us people to come see it at a show. So if you do want to come out to a show, just hit me up. You can go to vrvilla.org. You can add me to LinkedIn. I do share a lot of my adventures publicly on my LinkedIn post. I'm more of a B2B post than anything. So if you want to learn what I do, I'm an open book. I like what I do. It's a lot of fun, and I hope I'll get you guys to see it in the real world.
All right, next, Ray.
I said I don't play many AAA games much, and that's true, but I did just spend the last year carving out like half an hour at a time to play the latest Final Fantasy VII remake. It's the second in the series. It was one of my favorite games when it first came out, so I feel like it's good to play that. First off, if you like Final Fantasy, definitely play it. It's a fun game. And I just wanted to highlight that because I'm still a gamer nerd, and I get a chance to play some of them every now and then. But thank you to our host, Matt, for putting this together, and the VR/AR Chicago Association. I think it's really great, the community building we're doing here. As I mentioned, I've got like 4 tickets I can give away. There are 2 per, so first 4 people back there to come grab my attention to get some. And then I think I've probably got like 15 minutes of battery left in this thing. So again, with first several demos, happy to share that as well. Very exciting time to be in the rebounding of gaming into AR. For me, the AR was not capable of doing many strong games for a while. Now the hardware is much more capable. You can do a lot of really great things. It's exciting, and the industry needs a lot of creative people to add their ideas to it. Everything is greenfield. If you've got an idea, probably no one has thought about it before. Or if they have thought about it, they haven't been able to do it yet. All of a sudden, we can do really cool things with the hardware. And it's just a really exciting time to play. So also, if you're going to be in Long Beach, definitely drop by AWE. We're going to be there with Snap with a really cool demonstration of a multiplayer co-location game right outside the main area. So, and there's going to be a lot of really other amazing stuff there. I think Sony's done a great job of curating content. I just saw the layout today. It looks pretty incredible. So if you're there, come say hi. Otherwise, come say hi back there.
All right, Sonia.
Yeah, thanks. So first of all, thanks for putting this all together, and to Carolyn and everybody for hosting. And for the audience, I wasn't sure the exact demographics for whoever is in the audience, but my closing remark would be what I said earlier, which is do things you love. Life is short. Do things you enjoy. You are not going to make a ton of money doing VR or XR. And so just make sure your choices are always directed by, is this bringing me joy? Because if it isn't, then you may want to shift and take a different path. So whether you're playing, building, promoting, whatever it is, do the things that make you happy. We would love to see you all at AWE, June 10th through 12th in Long Beach. Thanks for mentioning that, Matt. And we will see everybody here. Matt, Matthew, and Christine, and Jeff, everybody I believe will be there. So come see us in person. I would love to meet you all. Catch me, I'll be running around, and I can't wait to see what you all do with the technology.
All right, Christine.
Yeah, thank you for having us. This has been great. And I guess for me, I think like the future of gaming is really compelling content. And I think VR, AR, the mixed reality, it will attract more creative people to develop in that, because I don't have a background in it. We came up with the idea because it's like we want to share this with everyone else. And I think that's also part of the marketing that goes into it, because to make this more mainstream, we're thinking of marketing events at colleges, D1, getting college ambassadors, around basketball communities and things like that. So we'll be doing a lot of in-game activations for that purpose. But I think like all people do, like Ray mentioned, like if you're creative, you can develop and have great experiences, and we really need that content to drive this industry forward. Thank you.
All right, thank you. If you guys want to step off the stage, feel free to at this point. Round of applause for our presenters. Thank you. All right, Caroline, your remarks.
I think I am just really excited by this idea of this confluence of bringing together all of these different creators and gamers and users, and I think the social engagement potential here, I'm so looking forward to that being really everything, how we go through our education, how we get trained, so gaming becoming the whole, sort of the glue that sticks people together and gets them to solve complex problems. So, but I'm definitely psyched about the idea of multiplayer social gaming. So.
All set. All right. So the one thing I'll say really quickly, and I've said this, I know a lot of people have heard me say this, I love playing games. I play a lot of VR games, and one of the things I learned as someone who's been a developer and frankly started developing and building in virtual reality and augmented reality in like 2000, I think the DK1 might have been out. I've actually building for augmented reality before that. I hate making games. Like I love developing stuff. I do not like developing games. It's that whole like making the sausage thing. You don't want to see it done. I just like playing. So I've stopped completely making games. I do love playing them though, and I do like seeing the different ways games develop. I will say if you haven't tried Christine's experience in the back there, try it out. Because I don't want to give away like what's different about it. I'm happy to talk to you guys in person afterwards. Christine, are you going to be at AWE?
Yeah.
Excellent. So hopefully you'll be able to show some people there as well. But there's a difference. There's one tiny little thing that's different about it, but it's something that I've noticed was missing, and it's really cool. It's a really sort of different way to play, and I like the fact that I think a couple folks mentioned it. Different perspectives, like different people will come up with different ideas for how this stuff is going to evolve. So the more people we have creating content, frankly, the more people we have creating platforms that allow even non-developers to come in and create content, the more powerful this stuff is going to be. With that said, let me find my notes for what I have to do on the last thing. So I told you guys I will pull this up towards the end again. I will put it up later and we'll walk away with this slide up. This is our way to make donations to support this event series so that we can keep it ongoing because we do want to keep it going. As Sonia said, you gotta kind of do what you like doing. We like doing this. We like connecting people into this technology who haven't seen it before. We want to be able to keep doing that. So the donation slide will be up for a while. With that said, we want to thank all of our presenters. This has again been XR and Games. We again want to bring up what is happening next month. For those of you who don't know, I know some people came in late. Some people might have left early. Chicago XR Summit. This is a hands-on demonstration-only event. It is very focused on, I'll say, kind of business and education and training use. There's definitely going to be some gaming there. We're hosting a Beat Saber tournament. The winner of that tournament, high score for the day, will get a headset. That was sponsored by Pulse Studios, who is also going to be at the space demonstrating their technology. So thanks to Pulse for sponsoring that. But also, so there's definitely going to be a gaming aspect at this event, but it is going to be very focused on business and industrial use and the ways that companies can, frankly, profit massively from this technology. As I mentioned, there is a very, very huge lack of awareness, very specifically in Chicago, around this technology. I coordinated with some folks at AWE and I spoke to another conference that's an XR conference that I won't mention by name. But I will say the one thing, Chicago is the third largest metropolitan economy in the United States. We make up Illinois makes up approximately 1% of attendance at XR conferences. People here just don't know what's happening. And so there's a huge amount to gain here. For those of you who know people in the XR industry or are in the XR industry yourself, you need to realize Chicago, Illinois' economy, if you look at the industries that are adopting XR from manufacturing to hospitality to logistics and transportation, education and training, I'm missing a few there that I usually, healthcare. These are all, in most cases, $10 billion plus industries in Illinois. This is a blue ocean of a market for the companies that can actually get connected here. So that's what XR Summit is all about. Showing the XR industry that Chicago is a place that they should be focusing on, and frankly showing Chicago the opportunity that we're seeing in other places. I spoke with somebody, an education provider earlier today, to say that, hey, Kentucky, by the way, is ahead of Illinois in terms of implementation. So is Alabama. These are places that we in Illinois don't like to think are kind of ahead of us on technology stuff, but they are. With that said, I'm going to shut up with that. These are our socials. I'll post this up. I'm going to go back to our donation page and leave the QR code up for the remainder of the event as we walk away. But please, if you can't donate, we're fine with that. Follow us on social. Share this out. We do want the awareness raised. And we really hope to see you at the Chicago XR Summit. Again, it is free to attend. There is not going to be a conference like this anywhere else in the United States that is free. So please come and join us at XR Summit. And if you can, make your way out to AWE. For those of you who are potentially like enterprise level folks that are going to go to AWE, please come and see me, because for enterprise, we can get you into the enterprise program. That may include a discount on your ticket. Beyond the one that we shared earlier today.
Let them know they get a free pass, Matt.
What's that?
For enterprise professionals, they get enterprise professionals.
I know enterprise is free. I wasn't going to say that out loud, but okay. I was just saying it's a discount. But yes, enterprise professionals have free access. But with that, again, thank you, Jeff. Thank you, Sonia. Thank you, Christine and Ray for joining us, and thank you, Caroline and Tom, especially for doing all the coordination over on the side. And we're going to get back to networking and having a few more drinks and some snacks. And thanks, y'all. We'll see you soon. And Scott in the back of the room, if you want to mute the virtual space in the room, so we don't get a lot of loudnesses after I stop this. Thanks, everyone. We'll see you soon. See you next month.
Technical difficulties, they're wonderful. Today has been like total technical difficulties.
Oh God, sorry.
Let me make sure Scott's all good. Are you good?
Hey, don't run up with that.
Thank you, Ron. Or,
Tom.
I was just going to interview.
Stop this guy.
I gotta get, hang on a second. Do that again. This is getting posted.
And another thing.
Alright.
Alright, good.
Y'all did it. That's getting posted.
Do you want this? Should I bring it back down?
I have to run the speaker right there, if you don't mind.
Long time no see, brother.
Hey, how you doing? Okay. We are no longer on this computer for streaming. We are now on my gaming computer, which is this far behind.
What's going on? I don't know, maybe I should take a game or something. It's not here.
I feel pretty left out as a gamer. I was the first kid on the block to have the Atari 2600. 1976.